Welcome, everyone, to the Canadian Network for Imagination and Creativity's November Idea Jam. My name is Stan Baines, and I'm a steering committee member of our network, otherwise known to us as Scenic. My fellow creative adventurers in our steering committee with us this evening are scattered about on your screen. So, members, if you could give us a wave and let everybody know who you are. Each month, we are excited to come back to this place and share with you our different topics from our hosts and guests, and then to the discussions that happen afterwards with you. Scenic's goal is to look for new, innovative ideas, look at things from different angles, see it from different backgrounds and perspectives, ask questions, and have open, forward thinking dialogue. It is our hope to expand our minds in new directions, collaborate through idea sharing, create partnerships in our differences, in our sameness, in our beliefs. We want to find creativity through exploration of our imagination and ideas. This is a space to learn, explore, and share. We want you to do that in your way to make this learning space your own. Not only do we want to hear your ideas, but listening is equally as important. Reflect and participate your way. Our format is very simple. Once our hosts guide our discussion for this evening, we will open the floor for our chats and conversations to begin and see where the journey will lead us through our time together. I would like to acknowledge at this time that as a resident of Clarence Rockland, Ontario, which sits just outside of the east end of the city of Ottawa, Ontario, Canada, that I'm chairing our meeting on traditional unceded land of the Algonquin Anishinaabe territory and people. I read the pages of our history in despair. I continued the story searching for where it ends. When I arrived, I saw us walking in harmony in a place we both found together. So as you can see, Zoom is our platform for this discussion. Zoom allows you to participate in many different ways. It has built-in controls that allow you to raise your hand so we can see you when you wish to join the conversation. And as mentioned before, you can add things to our chat function as well, which helps to keep the ideas and thoughts flowing. Share your ideas your way and join in the jam. So thank you so much, as always, for being patient with me. Our guided discussion tonight will be led by Michael Wilson. So without further ado, let me hand this over right to you, Michael.
Thank you very much, Stan. Great pleasure for me to be here tonight. And what I was expecting to be a very cold night, but let's imagine that it is a very cold night, and we need to take a few moments to wrap ourselves in blankets and cozy up by our most favorite armchair or sofa and pull close to the open fire or to your fireplace or any other source that provides warmth in your house or wherever you are, and let's just relax for a little while. And I'd like to kind of have an informal, even intimate chat about some aspect of creativity that we haven't really talked about a lot. I mean, in these idea sessions over the past few years, we've talked a lot about the characteristics of creativity. We've had some wonderful examples of creativity, both in the example of people and in projects and programs that have gone on. And we've had endless debates about the nature of creativity, what it is, the antecedents of creativity and play and imagination, and how all of that fits into the complex nature of what creativity is. But I want to ask, why? Why do we bother? I mean, why do we bother with creativity at all? I mean, let's put it in perspective. Is creativity more important than food? More important than water, drink? More important than sleep? More important than shelter? More important than clothes? Is it more important than sex? I mean, let's get real. Why is it that we're so concerned about creativity? It's a buzzword all over society and media today. It's one of those hot words that gets attention. And I wonder why that is. I mean, creativity is about changing things. It changes everything. We're involved in change all the time. Well, shouldn't we leave things as they are? Why do we have to change them all the time? I mean, human civilization prospered for thousands and thousands of years about not being so preoccupied with changing everything. They didn't need wagons until somebody discovered the wheel. Well, we got along fine with flatboards on the dirt being pulled by draft animals. They didn't know the difference, you know? So why do we have to change? And not only that, I'm concerned sometimes about the idea that every action has a reaction. All we can do is move the matter of the globe around. We can't really change it. We just put it off in different directions. And why do we need to change? Sometimes things are better left alone, and for every action, there's a reaction. There's a great discussion on now about the damage being done to culture by smartphones. Okay, why did we have to invent a machine like that in the first place? See all the damage it has done? Okay, I'd go so far as to say the BlackBerry was okay. I mean, it was nice to have a walking telephone with you all the time so you could phone people no matter where you were, and even texting was okay. But it's the rest of it that I wonder about. And of course, people thought, the invention of television would be the end of family unity. Turns out it was. and, the same can be said about inventions of all kinds. I think sometimes we should take careful analysis of why do we do any of these things? Why can't we leave things as they are? Why is it that we need to create? Why do we need to change things? That's my discussion topic for tonight. What do you think of that? Don't all talk at once now.
Sylvia here. I don't think one creates to make a change. You don't think of that when you start. You're fulfilling a desire for something that's more harmonious than what exists at that particular moment.
So is it the desire for harmony? Sylvia, you're there?
Well, that's what I said, but I don't know that. I'm certainly not a maven. I only know that I have to create on a daily basis because it makes my psyche more together.
Okay. Thank you very much, Sylvia. That's a great way to start.
So I got
Sharon.
Yeah.
Sorry, Sharon, I saw your hand up a moment ago. Sharon. I think you're on mute, Sharon.
Thank you. Yes, I wanted to say the only thing that we can predict is change, because change is a continual in wanting to improve where we were to where we're going. And if one could be content and satisfied with the blessings and where we are with gratitude and peace, then there wouldn't be a need for change. However, men and women tend to not be satisfied, looking for differences, looking for change. And therefore, I predict that change is the only thing that we can expect to have happen.
So it's like an expectation of humankind? Is that what you're suggesting? Okay. Thank you, Sharon.
Welcome.
I don't know who's next.
Blaine is next, and then Anne.
Me.
Okay.
Good evening, Michael, and thank you for this wonderful, thought-provoking topic. It occurs to me that there are polarities within our world, including what we might call an inner and an outer world, or what others have referred to as a spiritual and a physical world. And like the body, which combines both the spiritual and the physical, creativity, in my estimation, is an attempt to recapture enchantment, which is a fusion of both the spiritual and the physical.
I love your word, Blaine, of enchantment. It's a wonderful word. Thank
Thank-
you.
Yeah.
I think there was somebody next, Stan.
I
you
was.
Yep, go ahead.
Yeah.
Sorry, my hand went down when my hand went up to say I was
Oh, I'm
next.
sorry, Anne.
Zoom is so weird. Yes, Blaine, the Reenchantment of Everyday Life by Thomas Miller. I don't know if you've read it. It was one of the things I was truly enchanted with when I did my master's thesis in creative process. And it's a beautiful, eloquent, and elegant read as well. But I think that creativity is fundamental to being a human. We yearn to express ourselves. We yearn to make beauty and make things beautiful. Ellen Dissanayake looked at, the patterns of human beings making things special. And I think we like to elevate things for ourselves, and we appreciate with all of our senses things of beauty, and therefore we want to create more of that or create similar things like that. And that's where it's the rivalry with the God part of ourselves, right, that we should create as well. So I think that it's a kind of necessary expression, not for all people, but I think it's for all people, but I think it gets taught out of some people or encouraged out of people, so they're not using their creativity. But I think creativity is like, you watch a 2-year-old learn to walk. Wow, they have creative skills to get up, the stairs when you've got them blocked off so well. We are fundamentally creative as human beings. You talked about change. We reinvent ourselves so that we can survive all the time. Someone created a vaccine so we can get through a pandemic. I think we're fundamental creative people. We're driven to survive. We're driven to create for various reasons. But I think it's a human thing.
So you think it's a basic need then, Anne? Is that what you're suggesting? A basic need?
Well, I know it's a basic need for me, and I guess it would be a basic need for almost every single person on this call. So, we are preaching to the choir here. But I think it's a fundamental part of how we're wired as human beings. I think if you left a 2-year-old out someplace, they would figure, or in the kitchen alone, they would figure out how to open the doors or try and get the food out. Like, my cat can do that. I'm sure a 3 or 4-year-old could figure out where the food is or how to open the fridge door. I think we're creative. We're problem solvers by nature. To survive as a race, we have to be problem solvers as well. And creativity includes a great deal of problem solving. But it's
Okay.
a complex topic, Michael. So one nugget alone is not going to be an answer for you.
Thank you, Anne. You're weakening my point of view. Other, other contributors.
Kathy.
I'll just shut off now.
Everyone creates for different reasons, and for me, it offers me a sense of balance in the world, because there's all this stuff going on, and there's a lot of negativity. There's a lot of stuff that's tough to deal with, just worldly in your own personal surrounding as well. And for me, being creatively and artistically involved, it helps me be able to better understand the world around me. So it's a lens through which I am better able to deal with things on a daily basis. I also find that it's a way to connect with people when you're able to express yourself through your art, whatever art form that happens to be, that you're able to speak through those particular lenses and connect with others on a very deep, it was mentioned, spiritual level, whatever level it is that you want to connect with people. So whether you're collaborating with people and broadening your horizons through others, or you're connecting through your art, and it can speak for you. It's a language of its own. So there's all sorts of reasons. I mean, if we all made a list of why we create, we might come up with a different sub list of 10, and some of us would have similarities, and a lot of it would be different. But that's the great thing about it, because it's open-ended. So so for me, it helps me be better able to live in a world where there's a lot of stuff going on, and to be able to stay healthy. And so creating helps to keep that healthy balance. And for those of us, you know, who have worked in different jobs, or whether we retired or whatever we're doing in our life, when you're able to have that time, and for visual artists, it's a lot of alone time. Musicians, it's a lot of time with others playing. If you work in an interdisciplinary way, then you're also working with other people in a variety of media. But it just helps to be able to stay in a world of others. And so it helps to make sense of the world, and to understand who you are, and where you're going to. So it's kind of a movement through time as well. So it's reflecting back and reflecting forward. So there's all sorts of different reasons, but that's something I'd just like to share.
Thank you, Kathy. Are you suggesting that creativity is both an escape from the world, from the sinister nature of the world, and at the same time, it's a way of harmonizing with the world? Would you say both?
It can be for some. For me, it's not an escape. It's a way of better understanding the world around me, and to be better able to communicate what it is that I'm understanding through various art projects that I do. And then, you know, have exhibitions, and you're able to share that. And for a lot of people, yeah, I think in art therapy, those people that are dealing with art through art therapy, it could be a form of an escape. That's not for me. I don't consider it that. And what was your second part of that?
Well,
Michael?
was it both an escape from the world, and was it a way of coming to terms with the world? Is it
It's-
both?
It's definitely, it could definitely be both. For me, it's more of a probably coming to terms with, but I wouldn't describe it that way. I would think of it a more like, you have this vast world of experiences and people around you, and so whether your art is about political statements, or you're expressing a sense of beauty or awe, or connection, and different people were talking about different connections here, whatever that may be. So there's so many different reasons. You know, it's very open-ended. And so I think that's the great thing about creativity, is that you never want to nail it down. You never want to say that it's just this and it's just that, because that would just like put it, you know, down to that, and that's not a good thing. So and I think that we're, like was said earlier, I think Anne said it about preaching to the choir here, and definitely, but yeah.
Okay, thank you very much, Kathy. Very well put.
So I've got Fred, then Gerard, and then Peter.
Fred.
Thank you. I'm going to use Michael's metaphor at the beginning. Imagine yourself in a room, maybe it's at an embassy or something like that, and there are people from all over the world, and we don't all speak the same language. But in one corner, a baby starts to laugh. Are we not connected on that moment? In another corner, there's puppies playing with kittens. Are we frowning at this, or are we delighting? And then we're standing at a vista overlooking a deciduous forest at this time of year.
We might not be from the same area, we might not be from the same culture, but we all appreciate what we're looking at. And I asked Stan if I could just do a quick screen share. I should have blown that up first. I believe that we are created in the image of God. And Proverbs says that God, wisdom of God created the world, created the universe. And when we look at images like this, we see that creativity. And I think we have the same capacity built within us to appreciate beauty, to appreciate harmony. All of us from different cultures can appreciate a choir singing in harmony. And then there are those moments where all of a sudden, all the voices are singing in unison, and it hits us and moves us. And then they drift into their different parts, but they blend together in beautiful ways. So I think we have this capacity within us to do all these things: humor, creativity, imagination, all of these things, I think, point us to God. And that'll be controversial for some, but that's where I'm at.
Well, Fred, thank you for that. And I'm wondering too if you're really digging at something rich here, and that is, you're talking about the transcendental nature of creative experience. You know, that it's universal. It goes beyond the gravity of this world, if I can put it that way. So it really is, in that sense, a spiritual experience. And so I think there's definitely a lot to work with in considering the issues of it's dealing with the real and the here and now, and also the connection to things that are universal, spiritual, religious, however one wants to define that. Would you agree, Fred? That was what you wanted to say?
I definitely think so. And especially in this time of war that we're experiencing around the globe, most of us are desiring for peace and harmony. That is what is pushing us, because we don't like the discordancy of conflict in that way. So when we think about what we often do with our creativity, is we want to move people. We want to delight people. We want to delight ourselves. And I think these are universal throughout culture, throughout all of civilization. We have this desire, and it's been seen throughout the ages.
Yeah, thank you, Fred. Very eloquently put. Who is next?
Thanks, Fred. Gerard, you're up.
Well, Michael, some of the questions you asked us in the beginning around whether creativity is more important than food or clothing or a place to live. For over 20 years, I worked in the area of disability, mental health, working with persons facing a myriad of challenges. And throughout that, creative process in the form of art, creativity, was so important for so many of those folks that I worked with. It became and someone also talked a bit about solace. It became a place of solace for them. So I think from that point, I think creativity, without that creativity for a lot of those folks and for a lot of people who are facing challenges, be it in a war-torn country or living rough here in Halifax in tents, some element of creativity is that place that provides a solace for them. I actually just recently, I'm evidence that you can teach old dogs new tricks. I recently completed a therapeutic arts practitioner program through CIAT, which is the Canadian International Institute of Art Therapy. And so I'm engaging in a new practice of trying to do therapeutic arts. And the language and the methods are quite a bit different from, you know, I'm a graduate from NASCAD and Mount St. Vincent's Art Ed program 25 years ago. So it's been a real interesting shift in the thinking. But that creative process is still flown through that up into this practice. So, and the last thing I wanted to mention, Michael, too bad you didn't think about this in the beginning, but to have a screen share of the opening of the Friendly Giant TV show, I think would have been a fitting piece to this. So, in fact, it was Friendly Giant that brought me to my love of jazz music, by the way. So, anyways, that's it. So.
There's a lot to say, Gerald. For one thing, I wanted to hang on to your word solace, which was a wonderful word to use in all of this. And of course, I have to ask you at some time, what is the relationship between the Friendly Giant and jazz? But that's a discussion for another night, maybe. Yes, I think what you're discussing here and what you're suggesting is very important. And I particularly loved your word solace. Thank you very much for that. Stan, who's next?
Peter Gamble.
Sir. Great, you're muted. That's his best position to be in.
Unfortunately for you, on this particular occasion, I can't use the vernacular. So I'm really struggling here because I want to show you a video that I took today of a 16-year-old girl in a class talking to why she opted at this amazing biology teacher who I'm doing a study on over the last 3 months, and teaches in such a different way. Why is creativity important? Because it awakens people. When you open spaces of possibility for people to step into through areas of their own brilliance, it awakens them in a way. This girl almost brought me to tears today. So I think I am going to play it. I know I'm going to get permission from this girl's family, but I don't have it yet. So I'm going to play it, and I hope you can hear what she says. I asked her, why did you take the teacher's offer to do your quiz orally and not in a written form? And this is what she said. If this doesn't work, I'll give it in my own words, but I really hope you can hear this young lady speak, because it's her voice that matters. If I can get the frigging thing to play.
Here with Tori. And Tori, thanks for agreeing to talk to me. You took the option apparently.
Can you hear that?
Not yet.
Of not writing a quiz, but the option to go and actually talk your knowledge through. Why did you do that?
Well, I did this because it was pretty optional, and even if you didn't do good on it, you still have the option to redo it on the test. But me being like a different model, I find you can speak it way easier vocally, because sometimes you have like writer's block when you're doing a test, and it just can't come out the way that you can explain it in words. And whenever you're writing, you can use a lot of words like but and like, which isn't very scientific. But then whenever you're like saying it out loud and you're discussing it with someone else, it can be very scientific looking and it's like feeling, and it just like feels like they are understanding what you're trying to say instead of just writing.
So being able to use words that come naturally to you, that helps you to link your thoughts together?
Yeah, and because it's like a human connection instead of just connecting with the people, you're connecting with like a human and seeing their physical reaction to what you're saying, and it kind of gives you more confidence in what you're saying.
That's fascinating.
That was the first part of 3 interviews that I did her, all very brief. I don't know if you captured what she said, but it was to do with, she was able to use language. She used the most interesting, I've never heard a kid say this, but she said, when I'm explaining it in words, I can use words that come naturally to me, like and but, which are not scientific, she said. But when I'm conversing, I can get my ideas over. And then in the second part, she says, And when I see the human reaction, I don't get that from paper. We're upside down in education. We've got millions of these little girls out there and little boys. And allowing them to access their own creativity and their own brilliance in ways, allowing them to make sense of the world in a way that the world makes sense to them. This little kid almost had me in tears today. She'd never met me before. She had no idea what I was going to ask her. And she just came out with this. I mean, I've got so many of these videos, and it frustrates me that the system is so intransigent to change and so determined that we silence these voices. And yet, on the other hand, we have these spots of brilliance out there with these amazing educators who do understand and who do create those spaces. So why is creativity important? Because it resides within absolutely everybody. And it's our job to find a way for them to explore and demonstrate their brilliance.
Thank you, Peter. I could spend the rest of the night responding just to what you've said. Watch it. You're also providing evidence from my original position in suggesting that school boards are resistant to change.
Absolutely.
Which only adds further to my argument. Well, then, if it's resistant to change, let's just keep everything the same, you know. And why do we have to be so alive? I mean, have you ever noticed actually when any of us are passionate about something and we're very involved in some subject, how we can speak more eloquently about it? And we tend to be least interesting from a language perspective when we're talking about something we don't care about or don't have any connection with. So I think there's a connection between language richness and the degree of involvement one has in the subject that's being discussed. And I think, Peter, your example is a perfect revelation of how that can happen and should happen, of course, to all kids in all schools. Thank you, Peter. Next. Peter, after you've spoken, there's nothing left to say.
Tell a joke.
Oh, Lindsay.
Yeah, I guess I'm echoing some of the sentiment that I heard you talking about, Peter, and you, Michael, in your response. I was just at a conference last week, and there were several threads that were coming together for me about the graduate student experience with their supervisors and in the universities. And these threads were not being spoken about, they weren't being elaborated on, but they were, for me, poignant and relevant to my life. So like you were saying, Michael, speaking can be like you get the words, like they're not flowing right now, but they were flowing. I decided that I would stand up and speak during a commentary, but it was a very I wasn't sure exactly what I was going to say because I was had some insight and I was pulling things together, but it was very emotionally charged, because it had to do with stories that I've heard from other students and myself about being isolated. And I wasn't sure that I would be able to speak through it because of how emotionally charged I was, and because it hadn't been spoken for the first half of the conference. We were in the middle of it now. And one particular person was listening in such a way that listening propelled me forward. His openness, his eyes, eye contact with me was affirming, and I was able to speak very clearly with big words and not blubber my way through the message. And it reverberated through the conference for the rest of the time. It was an act of creativity to respond on impulse in that moment.
Lindsay, you've brought to my mind that the very act of language, the very act of anyone speaking to someone else without reading a script is an act of creativity, you know, because we're involved in spontaneous improvisation, aren't we? As soon as we speak to anybody. And if it turns out that either the subject about which we are speaking is very important to us, or we're speaking not to a wall, but to other people, and we get from other people a kind of response from them, even if they're not saying anything, we get a physical response, don't we? From the way they look, their eyes, their stance towards us, and all those things that communicate connections between people. And when we have those circumstances, then of course we can speak quite powerfully and quite strongly about whatever it is we're discussing. Is that right?
Yeah.
So that seems to, of course, reduce the importance of Zoom calls, and we should all be in person, right? Should we not all be in person? Don't you think this conversation this evening right now would be much better in person? And just to put a plug in, if you'd like to join a group of people in person, show up in Ottawa on April the 19th and 20th, and we got something special for you. Thanks, Lindsay.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah.
Who's next? Or who wants to go again? Well, while we're pausing for the next person to speak, I asked the question of myself, why be involved in creativity at all? And that brings to mind one's personal connection to the elements of play, imagination, and creativity. And I was trying to think back over my life, what were the important moments to me in my life as it had to do with a connection to creativity. And obviously one was, at one time, wanted to be, well, basically what I am now as a recovering jazz musician. I've been recovering for 55 years. And that's a music that depends a great deal on spontaneous creativity, depending on the kind of jazz that it is. And also, the next time I discovered any sense of being awash in creativity was my teaching experience with teacher candidates. That was even a more intense creative experience than it was teaching in a regular classroom. I think I was a good classroom teacher for 20 years, but I wasn't a great one. And I felt differently about my creative experiences with teacher candidates in a university setting. I was quite surprised about that, but I felt within myself being much more involved creatively with that, in that context, than almost anything else I've ever done, except being a trumpet player at one time, as jazz trumpet player. Which, by the way, I should tell you, I haven't played for many years, but the music still goes around in my head. Those of you who are musicians, you'll understand that. The music is going on in your head all the time. You can't turn it off. It's always there. Anybody want to talk about anything I just said, or new comments, or other speakers who've gone before you want to say something else?
Yeah, Gerard up next.
Okay.
Michael, really quickly, the Friendly Giant show, and some people that maybe watched it in their when they were kids, there was actually a little jazz ensemble made up of the giraffe, the giant, and some cats. And not only that, there was also even the early Spider-Man cartoons had kind of a jazz influence too on me. So I'm not a musician though, and I don't have music floating around in my head. But thinking about the Friendly Giant that came up.
Yeah, that's the connection. I'll have to look it up again on Google, see if I can see that.
Yeah, you
That
should be able to go
facility is there
into
somewhere.
you should be able to go into YouTube and you can see the opening, and I think
Yeah.
there's some videos of that. So
Yeah.
the other thing for me was the whole creative process in my own practice as an educator, and how that's, I started off when I was 16 with a camera taking pictures, and actually came to doing photography and getting involved with the arts, not through the arts or creativity, but through science. I always had a microscope near me or a telescope, and I was always looking for something, but it wasn't until photography came along that I could actually hold on to an image. That's how I ended up getting involved with that. But what I was about to say was that for me, the creative process has kind of become intertwined and so interconnected to my practice as an educator. I don't know of any other way of how that practice could function. Now, I have to admit that after I finished my BEd in art ed, I knew that the school system was not for me. I saw too many kids being written off by the system.
Yep.
And, Peter, as you were talking, that kind of resonated with me. And I was written off by the education system myself. I found out years ago that I'm dyslexic. Of course, back in the 70s, they didn't assess for anything like that, at least here in Halifax. I don't know about Ontario or BC, that type of thing. So anyways, I just wanted to throw that out there. So
Thank you very much, George. It was very personal and beautifully connected to the idea that one of the problems we have about talking about creativity is because it is fundamental to our nature. We're all creative. And the only thing that distinguishes us, we're creative in different ways at different times. And we think we're creative at some things and not at others, and we're all artists, we're all musicians, we're all teachers. But it's just that we sometimes don't believe that we are, or that we have experiences in school or elsewhere which discourage us to follow certain paths, and so we go in others. I think there's a whole line of questioning and discussion we can have in that, perhaps at another time. But very important, Jordan. Thank you for being so personal about that. I much respect and appreciate that. Next.
Fred.
Well, I think we need to sometimes think about our metaphors that we have, that we exist on, because as people were talking, I'm weaving these ideas together. And that's how I always saw learning, as a weaving process. And sometimes it's really messy, especially when we're working it out, but then we flip it over and there's the beauty that comes out. But this idea of sometimes we come up with an idea and we actually realize that the new idea makes us cast out the old, and we have to rework a certain section, but that's okay because the tapestry is still there. But the pursuit of defining moments I've found extremely valuable, because those are the touch points of our lives where something happened within us. The open for possibilities that you mentioned, or the pregnant pauses filled with the future and what could happen. But so many of my defining moments came in moments like this, where we had a diversity of people, a diversity of backgrounds, diversity of age groups that we work in, and a diversity of ages that we are. And all of a sudden, it's this seeing through others' eyes that gives us the breadth of understanding that we need to really put together a great idea. So as I've just been listening to this, I've been thinking through some of those other defining moments, and so often they did come in collaboration with others that made me excited and passionate, because they transformed me, and I felt that I had a contributing part in their transformation as well. So I wanted to highlight that. Thank you.
Thank you, Fred. It was a very important comment to make, particularly about the degree to which we can feel validated in not only the solace of coming to terms with ourselves, but also in working together with others. And the whole process of creativity as a collective process is a very important part of human existence, I think. And when we have positive experiences in that way, it can enhance many other aspects of our lives. And I totally agree. It's wonderful to hear comments like that. Thank you, Fred. Okay. Anyone else?
Over to you, Peter. And
I will gladly say something, but I would rather leave the floor open to people who haven't spoken. Leave me at the end of the list. And it's just another anecdote that I have from that classroom.
Okay, is there anyone who hasn't spoken would like to say something now?
And we do have more time. We still got about probably 8 or so minutes. So if you don't have something right this second, you've got a few more moments to think of something.
In the meantime, Peter.
So I've been visiting this particular classroom well, I visited first back in June, and I was so moved by the way this high school biology teacher was teaching biology in a way that I have never seen it done before, opening kids to all forms of different expression. Anyway, so the last time I go into the grade 12 one, today was grade 11, the last time, which was a couple of weeks ago, end of the class comes and the kids all leave the room, and I noticed one sitting down in the corner with a paintbrush. So I said to the teacher, what's going on there? And she said, go and ask her. So I walked over and I spoke to this young lady. Embarrassingly, I've forgotten her name. And I said, what are you doing? She said, well, it's part of my living systems assignment. And she's drawing a landscape of the Arctic with polar bears and other animals. And I said, hang on a second, you're going to be assessed on this? Oh, yes, she said, because I'm using metaphor to deepen my and to express my own understanding. So I said, hang on, can I video you? And she thought about it and she said, yeah, you can. I've got this 2 or 3 minute video of this 16-year-old kid talking about why that matters to her. And once again, this was totally in the moment. She had no idea I was going to do it. And the beauty in the way she described how it's one thing to express it in oral and written communication, but by doing this piece of artwork, using metaphor to give her voice to the concern she had over the environment, now she felt it. And in feeling it, it deepened her understanding. Then a little face peeps out around the other side. And this is her friend who's there to support her in this. And so the artist said to me, oh, and you should see the book that she's done, the handwritten book on her understandings of another aspect of biology with the most beautiful visual art done. And I thought to myself, if every classroom was like this, I wouldn't need to be writing books. Why is every classroom not like that? Which brings us full circle back to your beginning, Michael. And because I don't want to end on a negative, I'm not going to.
Somebody quote that, put it in the chat form. Peter Gamwell doesn't want to be negative.
Only to you.
I thought you were coming back to my original point of view at the opening when I was obviously begging the question, and
I was
playing devil's advocate. You know, what's interesting about all of this is sometimes when we encounter experience of any kind, informational or otherwise, in order to have the maximum engagement with it, we need to feel it. Do you know what I mean? It's very it's a contradiction in terms of talk about feeling over a Zoom call, and it reminds me again of how much we need to be in each other's company in reality. so that we can feel each other. I almost, as a partial joke tonight in my opening, trying to create the atmosphere, I almost said, feel free to get as naked as you want. But that only works in in-person situations. It doesn't matter on Zoom. In fact, apparently politicians have been caught on Zoom calls when they weren't wearing any pants at all, thinking it'd all be headshots. It doesn't matter what we're wearing. But rather than belay the point about what that might look like, I want to go back to this idea that communication is in part based upon how much we can feel the other and they can feel you in their total perception, and therefore the total in their total mind at the same time. Maxine Greene writes beautifully about all of that. It's called Noticing Deeply. And this gets back to Peter's comment too. Why couldn't we have more of that in school context where people are immersed in experience about anything rather than the traditional methods of Socratic teaching and all the rest of it? But then that would change things. And I'm trying to maintain my wobbly point of view about why do we need to change? Can't we keep things the way they are? Any challengers other than everybody so far?
Kathy.
Well,
Kathy?
you know, Michael, nothing stays the same. Everything is in flux. Everything is in constant change. It's ebb and flow of life and moving through time. So you already know the answer to that one.
Well, thank you, Kathy. We all do. I'm going to bring my part of the program to a close tonight. I just want to quote very briefly from someone, a scientist really, who thought he knew something about art, but he didn't really know anything about anything. And the comment is this: the most beautiful thing we can experience is the mysterious. It is the source of all true art and all true science. And that was quoted from somebody saying, somebody named Einstein, no idea who he was. Thank you all very much. It's been a pleasure speaking with you this evening. And I'd like to turn things over back to Stan. Thank you very much. Stan?
Well, thank you, Michael, very much. That was very engaging. And thank you all very much as well for participating in our jam tonight. As committee members, we do look forward to this, and we are glad that you can join us each month for our idea jams. We spend a lot of time planning and looking forward to this, so we're glad that you can participate with us. And we hope that you actually find this as valuable to your time as we do to ours. In case you didn't know, Scenic actually is socially connected, so please check out our website at www.canadiannetworkforimaginationandcreativity.com. We can also be found on Instagram and on YouTube. Find us online for more information and links to register for idea jams. You can pass that along to your friends who don't know what's going on. You can check out our bios, view some of the past idea jam sessions and the chats and other helpful information about us and what's coming up. And as Michael so shamelessly and proudly plugged, Scenic is going to be having our first ever live experience called Odyssey coming up in the spring on April 19th and 20th here in Ottawa, Canada. Odyssey promises to be an event to remember, so please mark your calendars, and we will have more details coming up as we continue in our planning. So please stay tuned to all of your usual channels. But if you do want more information kind of right now, please reach out to Michael at mpwilson@uottawa.ca. As we close for the evening, on behalf of all of us here at Scenic, we thank you again for being with us for this past hour or so, and we look forward to seeing you again in December for our last idea jam of 2023, where we will be led by Mary Blatherwick and Dr. Patrick Howard, and we are looking at creativity and sustainability. Join us again next month, and thank you for being here tonight, my friends. Have a great evening, everybody. Good night.